Imagine your country is like on the absolute brink of annihilation. You are desperately searching for a traitor.
Right, someone who's leaking your most vital military secrets to the enemy.
Exactly. And then you finally find them, but they aren't cowering in some dark alleyway or hiding in a remote cave.
No.
You find them hiding in the most sacred, unimaginable public place in the entire city.
It is the ultimate subversion of expectations. I mean, the traitor is just hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
They're mocking the very people who are suffering, using like the cloak of ultimate morality to cover up ultimate corruption.
It's a scenario that completely upends how we think about loyalty and deception.
Yeah.
And, well, just human nature in general.
Totally.
And that is exactly what we are going to unpack today in this deep dive. But really quickly, before we jump into the story, I just want to welcome you to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel.
Yes, welcome.
If you're enjoying our content and want to dive deep into incredible stories with us, I am humbly asking you to please hit that subscribe button.
It really helps out a lot.
It does. And also, don't forget to like this video and share your valuable comment down below. We love hearing from you.
We really do. So what are we diving into today?
Right, so we are looking at this classic story by the legendary Indian author Premchand. The story is titled Dikkar 2.
Which roughly translates to disgrace or condemnation, depending on how you look at it.
Exactly. And it comes from his famous Manasarovar Part 3 collection. Through this specific tale, we are going to explore the dark intersections of war, espionage, and honestly, a deeply unsettling twist regarding the fickleness of mass psychology.
Yeah, that psychological twist is what makes it so relevant. And, the setting Premchand uses to explore these themes is critical here.
Right. Tell us about the setting.
Well, we are dropped right into the middle of this grim, just desperate war raging between ancient Greece and Iran.
And the Greeks are not doing well, right?
Not at all. They are losing on a catastrophic scale. Premchand paints this incredibly vivid picture of a society that has just been pushed past its absolute limits.
I mean, the normal rhythm of life has just evaporated. We are talking about total economic and social collapse.
Yeah, literally. Farmers have traded their plows for swords.
Right.
Merchants who usually, hold scales in the marketplace, they're now wielding spears on the front lines.
That paints such a bleak picture, and there's this palpable terror in the air, especially among the women in the city.
Right, because they're facing the horrific prospect of being captured and dishonored by the invading Iranian forces.
It's pure survival mode.
Exactly. And when a society reaches that level of existential dread, when the physical world offers absolutely no solutions, what do?
They turn to the metaphysical.
Yes, inevitably. The desperate citizens of this dying city, they visit the sacred temple of Delphi to ask the goddess a fundamental question.
They just want to know why. Like, why are we losing so badly?
Right. What divine law have we broken to deserve this relentless wrath?
And the priestess of the temple delivers a prophecy. And it is chilling, mostly because of how it redirects their panic.
Oh, absolutely.
She tells them that the gods aren't like raining destruction down on them from above. The rot is internal.
The call is coming from inside the house.
Yes. She says there is a traitor living among them. And until this specific person is identified and eliminated, the disaster will not be averted.
Which, if you think about the psychological mechanics of that prophecy, it's devastating.
How so?
Well, when an enemy is outside the gates, a society usually bonds together.
Right.
The threat is external, it's visible, and it's shared.
Yeah, you band together against the common foe.
Exactly. But the moment the oracle speaks, the dynamic of the entire city fractures.
Oh, I see.
The fear shifts from the Iranian army marching toward them to like the person standing next to them in the market. It shatters all social trust.
It completely weaponizes their paranoia. It's like bailing water out of a sinking lifeboat only to realize someone inside the boat with you is actively drilling holes in the bottom.
That is a perfect analogy.
But then, how do you even begin a rational manhunt for a single hidden traitor in a city that is already consumed by absolute chaos?
You don't. You really can't.
Right. I mean, there's starvation, there's mourning. Every single interaction becomes fraught with suspicion. If anyone could be the traitor, everyone is a suspect.
It creates the perfect atmospheric pressure for a witch hunt. And Premchand uses this setup to highlight this stark, agonizing contrast within the city walls.
Set the scene for us a bit.
So you have a populace that is collectively grieving. There is no luxury, no wine, no music.
Just misery.
Yeah, the sensory experience of the city is just the eerie silence of a terrified people, broken only by the sound of weeping.
And that profound sensory deprivation makes the discovery of the traitor so much more jarring when it happens.
Oh, it really does.
Picture this scene. It's midnight. The city is pitch black. And there's this old Greek man walking through the shadows.
Right, his only son is out there fighting on the front lines.
Exactly. So this man is carrying an immense, just crushing burden of grief and anxiety. He walks to the temple intending to either get some sort of blessing of victory or honestly just end his own life right there.
Because the despair has just become too heavy to carry. He is basically the physical embodiment of the broken spirit of Greece.
He really is. He represents the collective suffering of the masses, seeking solace at the only place left that represents purity and hope.
But as he approaches the back of the temple, this place of ultimate solemnity, the sensory contrast hits him.
Yeah, he hears something that makes absolutely zero sense in a starving, dying city.
What does he hear?
He hears sweet, melodic music, and he smells delicious, rich, roasted food.
Wow. In a society where people are, like, rationing crumbs and preparing for death, the casual smell of a lavish feast is practically an act of violence.
It really is. It is a total assault on the shared suffering of the community.
So what does he do?
So he peers through a window into this brightly lit room attached to the back of the temple. And he sees a man surrounded by flagons of wine, surrounded by slaves, just indulging in this decadent, oblivious feast.
The audacity is just wild.
I know. The old man immediately grasps the reality of what he's looking at. He shouts out to the sleeping city. He says, "Here is the traitor."
And the identity of the man indulging in that feast, that is Premchand's first massive twist in the story.
Wait, who is it?
The traitor throwing this clandestine party is Posaeneus. He is the son of the temple's own priestess.
Oh, wow. The very same priestess who delivered the prophecy.
The exact same one. The one who said a traitor was ruining them.
That is insane.
Yeah, Posaeneus had been secretly selling Greek military movements to the Iranians, and he was using that blood money to fund a secret life of extreme insulated luxury.
See, I keep getting stuck on the sheer logistics and like the logic of Pausanias's behavior here.
Right, it seems so reckless.
Why on earth would he hide his treasonous, loud, wine-soaked parties right behind the temple? Is it just sheer, blinding arrogance?
It's definitely arrogance.
Or did he calculate that the most sacred ground in the city would be the perfect cover? Like, assuming no one would ever dare look for supreme sin in the house of the gods?
It's a fascinating psychological profile, honestly. Criminals operating at that magnitude of betrayal, they often develop this profound God complex.
They think they're untouchable.
Exactly. They believe their intellect makes them invincible. Hiding in the shadow of the temple gives him this veneer of ultimate sanctity. It's the last place a desperate, pious populace would ever suspect.
Because they respect the temple too much.
Right. In his arrogant mind, proximity to the divine makes him invisible. But, it also reveals a complete, fatal detachment from the reality of his people's suffering.
What do you mean by fatal detachment?
Well, he is so insulated by his illicit wealth that he literally forgets to be quiet. He forgets that starving people have a very keen sense of smell.
Oh, man. Yeah, the roasted meat gave him away.
Exactly. So the old man starts screaming. The city wakes up and immediately descends on the temple.
And here's where the story introduces a deeply uncomfortable psychological conflict.
The mother.
Yes, the priestess, Pausanias' mother, is actually inside the temple at this exact moment, deep in prayer.
She has no idea what's going on.
She is entirely ignorant of her son's crimes, but when she hears the commotion and the crowd explains what her son has done, she faces an impossible choice.
We often assume maternal instinct is like the absolute unbreakable baseline of human behavior.
Right, a mother will always protect her child.
But Premchand challenges that assumption head-on. The priestess is forced to weigh her biological imperative to protect her child against her civic and spiritual identity.
Because she is the voice of the gods for a dying nation.
Exactly.
And she chooses the nation.
She really does.
Her civic duty completely overpowers her maternal instinct. She doesn't just step aside either. She actively joins the condemnation.
Wow.
Yeah, she tells the furious Ma to drag her own son out of the room.
That is a brutal, staggering moment of ideological purity over family. It really speaks to the absolute desperation of the Greeks at that moment.
The survival of the collective has just superseded all individual bonds.
Completely. But Pausanias, he isn't going quietly, is he?
No, not at all. He realizes the mob is outside, and he barricades himself inside that stone feasting room.
Okay, so let's talk about the mechanics of what happens next, because it's brilliant from a narrative perspective.
Yeah, normally an angry mob would just grab some battering rams, break down the door, drag the guy into the street, and execute him.
Right, it would be violent, but it would be fast.
Exactly. This mob, however, they enact a punishment that is so unique, so calculated, and honestly, so agonizing.
Instead of breaking down the door, what do?
They climb up and they systematically tear the roof off the building.
Oh my God. They turn his impenetrable sanctuary into an open-air cage.
Yes. They don't lay a single finger on him.
They just step back and let nature act as the executioner.
They leave him completely exposed to the elements. And Premchand details this physical torment so viscerally.
Because you have to remember, Posaeneus has been living a remarkably soft life.
Right. He's been eating rich foods, drinking fine wines, sleeping in warm beds, while everyone else was out there hardening themselves for war.
And now, suddenly, he is trapped within four walls under the scorching midday sun.
He suffers severe dehydration, extreme hunger. Then, as the day ends, a freezing night falls, complete with snow.
The poetic justice here is profound, and it is deeply rooted in the mechanics of his crime, if you think about it.
How so?
Well, Posaeneus sold out the lives of his countrymen purely to acquire supreme physical comfort. He traded Greek blood for wine and warmth.
So the mob responds by stripping away the most basic physical comfort of all.
Shelter.
Yeah.
Exactly. They force him to feel the ultimate, agonizing vulnerability that he casually inflicted on his entire nation.
He is just thrashing around in this roofless room, begging the mob surrounding the building for a quick death. He's screaming like, just end it.
But they don't do anything.
No. They stare down at him in complete silence. They ignore his pleas. He tries to run laps around the room to generate body heat, but his soft, corrupted body just gives out.
He collapses in the snow.
Yeah. And you read this, and despite knowing he is a literal monster who sold out his own people, you almost feel a twinge of pity for the sheer physiological torture he's enduring.
Which is exactly the emotional trap Premchand is setting for the reader. And for the mob in the story, too.
A trap.
Yeah, because suffering, even when it's entirely justified, is very difficult for humans to witness without experiencing some level of empathetic distress.
Oh, I see. We naturally empathize with pain.
Right, and Pausanias, being a master manipulator, he understands this human weakness perfectly.
This brings us to the next morning and the massive pivot in the narrative.
This is where it gets crazy.
Pausanias realizes he is going to die of exposure in a matter of hours if he doesn't change tactics immediately.
Right, his soft body has failed him. His stolen wealth is completely useless now.
So he relies on the only weapon he has left.
His cunning.
Yes. He stops begging for his life.
Because begging just reinforces his pathetic state, right? It reinforces the mob's power over him. It justifies their disgust.
So he completely flips the script entirely. He uses weaponized reverse psychology.
How does he do it?
He stands up in the freezing room and loudly confesses to every single sin. He doesn't make a single excuse. In fact, he tells the crowd, do not trust me. I am a monster.
Okay, leaning into the villain role.
But then he drops the bait. He screams out that he possesses highly valuable Iranian military secrets.
Oh, wow.
He claims he knows troop movements, vulnerabilities, secrets that could instantly turn the tide of the war and guarantee a Greek victory.
So he creates an impossible ethical dilemma for the crowd. He dangles their ultimate salvation right in front of them.
Exactly, but then he pulls it away.
What? Why?
He insists that he is simply too much of a traitor to be allowed to live.
Wait, he tells them to kill him.
He tells them, you should let me die right here. My secrets could save your children, they could save this city, but I don't deserve to breathe the same air as you. Let me freeze.
That is a masterstroke of psychological manipulation. He understands the mechanics of cognitive dissonance so perfectly.
Break that down for us. What's the cognitive dissonance here?
Well, the crowd desperately wants those military secrets, obviously. They want to survive the war.
Right.
But to accept help from the man who caused all their suffering in the first place, that feels morally reprehensible. It feels dirty.
Yeah, you don't want to owe your life to the guy who sold you out.
Exactly. So Pausanias gives them a narrative loophole.
A loophole.
Yeah. By playing the role of the hyper-repentant sinner who demands his own death, he forces the crowd to take on the role of the merciful saviors.
And the crowd's reaction is just astonishing to witness. Instead of letting him freeze or throwing stones at him, their entire posture shifts.
They fall for it.
Hook, line, and sinker. They suddenly begin to pity him. You can hear them arguing amongst themselves, rationalizing his behavior.
What are they saying?
They look at his shivering, broken body and say, "Look at him! His night of suffering in the snow has purified his soul."
Oh my goodness. They convince themselves that a true, unrepentant traitor wouldn't be so devastatingly honest about his own wickedness.
Right.
They project nobility onto his manipulation because they so desperately need the utility he is offering.
It's just wild. And they don't just decide to throw him a rope and pull him out of the room.
Yeah.
No. They actually begin planning a celebratory procession for him.
You are joking.
With music, they are literally organizing a parade for the man who is selling their sons to the enemy 24 hours earlier.
That is incredible. And this specific moment is really the philosophical core of Premchand's narrative.
Right, because he isn't just telling a historical thriller about ancient Greece.
No, he is explicitly delivering a sharp, timeless critique of mass psychology. In the text, Premchand notes that this sudden, irrational forgiveness is the fundamental weakness of Jansatvavad.
Let's unpack that term, Jansatvavad, because it translates to democracy, or more specifically in this context, mob rule. Why does Premchand equate the two here?
Well, because a functioning democracy relies on the rational, measured discernment of its citizens.
The public has to be able to think critically.
Right, they must be able to tell the difference between true virtue and calculated vice. But Premchand is illustrating how extreme fear and trauma completely degrade that democratic discernment.
So panic makes us stupid.
Essentially, yes.
Mm.
When a populace is pushed to the brink of survival, the demos, the people, they revert to a mob.
And a mob does not think rationally.
Exactly. It feels urgently. It is driven by immediate utility rather than objective truth.
Which makes the masses incredibly easy targets for a cunning hypocrite to manipulate. You know, listening to the mechanics of this, I can't help but draw a direct line to how public opinion operates today.
Oh, absolutely. The parallels are striking.
It is exactly like watching a vicious social media cancellation completely reverse itself overnight.
The mechanics of performative repentance are exactly the same.
Right. You have a disgraced public figure. They're caught doing something awful. Everyone hates them. The internet tears the metaphorical roof off their house and exposes them.
They are totally canceled.
They are canceled. But then they wait a beat and they post a perfectly calculated, highly produced, tearful apology video.
Complete with the deep sigh at the beginning.
Yes, the deep sigh. They look exhausted. They admit they are flawed. They say they need to do the work.
And suddenly, the mob in the comments section completely flips.
They totally flip. They say, "Oh, look how much they've grown. They suffered. We have to forgive them. Let's support their new project."
Because the crowd mistakes the performance of suffering for genuine moral transformation.
That's exactly what it is.
In both the ancient Greek temple and the modern digital comments section, the audience wants to consume what the creator or the traitor is offering.
The Greeks want the military secrets. The internet wants the entertainment.
Right. But they want to consume it without feeling morally compromised.
So the tearful apology, or Posaeneus shivering in the snow, provides the psychological permission to embrace them again.
Exactly. It's permission.
So we have to ask the hard question here. Is the Greek crowd genuinely forgiving Posaeneus because they truly believe a night in the cold has purified his soul? Or are they just blinding themselves to his evil because of the sudden promise of getting those Iranian secrets?
Are they acting out of a noble sense of mercy, or are they just being deeply selfish and incredibly gullible?
Right.
The text heavily implies it is the latter, wrapped securely in the comforting disguise of the former.
Which is so cynical, but probably true.
Public opinion, especially in times of crisis, is rarely driven by a pursuit of objective truth. It is driven by utility.
What's useful right now?
Yeah. A cunning operator like Posaeneus knows that if you give a desperate mob a narrative that serves their immediate needs, even a really flimsy one, they will eagerly believe whatever you want them to believe.
They will do the mental gymnastics for you.
Exactly.
It's a deeply chilling realization. A society pushed to the absolute brink doesn't actually care about justice. They just want a way out.
They will throw a parade for the devil himself if he promises to show them the exit door.
And the tragic irony of Dikkar, too, is that by letting Posaeneus go, by throwing him this parade, they are willingly inviting the very corruption back into their society that the Oracle of Delphi warned them was causing their downfall in the first place.
They haven't excised the infection at all.
No, they've just given the infection a new set of clothes, declared it cured, and hired a marching band to celebrate it.
It really is a brilliant, unsettling story.
It is. I mean, we started with a desperate nation losing a war, relying on a divine prophecy to root out an internal rot.
We saw that traitor unmasked, A man living in supreme luxury in the shadow of a sacred temple, completely insulated from the suffering of his countrymen.
We analyze the brutal elemental justice of a mob ripping the roof off a building to let nature slowly torture him.
And finally, we witness that very same mob, just hours later, manipulated into throwing him a celebratory parade.
All because he dangled the promise of salvation in front of them and performed the role of a repentant sinner.
Premchand really forces us to critically examine the reliability of the collective mind. It's a stark warning that crowds are easily hijacked by those who understand the levers of human emotion, fear, and utility.
It leaves you with a tremendous amount to process about human nature. And as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final lingering idea to chew on.
A provocative thought for the road.
Exactly. Put yourself in that crowd or in front of your screen today. If a confessed, blood-soaked traitor can manipulate a furious, grieving mob into throwing a celebratory parade for him just by acting sufficiently broken.
How many processions are we cheering for in our own modern world without realizing we're being played?
The next time you see the court of public opinion violently flip its verdict overnight, ask yourself, are we witnessing true redemption, or is there just another Posaeneus hiding in plain sight, pulling the strings of our collective anxiety?
Keep questioning those narratives.
Always. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today on the Simplified Summary channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.